Okay, so I'll let some guests trickle in. I realize we're going to be trickling in over some period of time. It's just the nature of events. And so, again, just want to quickly introduce myself and welcome you to this space. My name is Adam Yasmin. I'm a certified digital wellness educator and strategist and consultant and speaker and coach. Got my certification through the Digital Wellness Institute, which is one of the organizations, the main organization that's hosting this event today, Digital Wellness Day. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. This is a unique space in that I'm using a platform called Jitsi. Jitsi is a Zoom alternative. It's browser based. It is an end-to-end encrypted meeting room. So if this is your first time in this space, I've just set it up so that participants coming in are muted, and also cameras are off. But later on, in a few minutes after this talk and presenting some of what slow tea looks like, I would like to open up the floor for some Q&A, and you're welcome to do that by turning your video back on and stuff. Also, if you don't feel comfortable turning your video back on and whatnot, there is the chat function down here. You can also raise your hand if you do have a question, and if it's in the flow of the talk and presentation, I can make it more of a conversation. Otherwise, there will be a Q&A in a few minutes. So thank you so much for being here. So I would like to start in a way that I actually never do. So I hope you enjoy the spirit of a little bit of experimentation, but I actually want to start with a minute of silent, deep, slow breaths, because the idea behind today's talk is slow tea and digital wellness. And slow tea is really an embodiment of slow living or slowing down. And I'm going to get into the details about that, but I would like to invite everyone. Thank you, Amy and Juan and Amir and Natalia. Don't know who the fifth person is, but I don't see a name. But again, I appreciate you being here. If you like, you could type your name in the chat box. Be happy to give my thanks and gratitude. So I would like for everyone to, if you're seated, please take a moment to ground yourself. Get comfortable in whatever seating position that you're in. And I would invite you to close your eyes. And with eyes closed, just notice how you feel in your body. Notice where there may be any excitement or tension or stress. And as you notice yourself noticing, I invite all of us to take a deep breath for the count of 4, just through our nose, our nostrils. And now exhale through the mouth. Let's do that 2 more times. So inhale through the nose and hold for 4 seconds. And now exhale. So I'm going to do this 1 more time. You're welcome to join me. Otherwise, it's okay. Great. Thank you again for joining me. Chandra and Megan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So So welcome to my pod. This is the pod that I've been in throughout the pandemic. It's the pod that I have set up in the house that I share with my family, which is comprised of my daughter and my partner Pamela. And this pod I've set up to work with people, to support people, both in terms of digital well-being, what I like to refer to as digital resilience. Really just focusing on building our own resilience to stress and overwhelm and the sort of tsunami that we've been living in, um, being on screens so often and for so long. It's only been 14 months, but it may as well feel like 14 centuries. So, again, I just want to take a moment to welcome you into this space, to just take a moment to congratulate, or just to not congratulate, that may not be the best thing to say, but just to say, I'm really proud of you for having made it this far into this pandemic, and to have your curiosity bring you to this space, to this moment together with me. So, um, so what is slow tea? Slow tea is an immersive experience. It isn't any one particular experience. It is the intentional space that we as individuals or as people or friends or families or tea houses or coffee houses or what have you, it is an intentional space um, to immerse oneself in not just tea, but also in time, in presence, in reverence, and in mindfulness. Some of us may have heard of these concepts like slow living, slowing down, whatever the inverse of sort of rush, hustle culture, whatever the inverse of that is. That's kind of my shtick. And so, before I get into breaking down what slow tea is, how to utilize it in terms of our own personal digital wellness journeys, and what that can look like for you, because there isn't any one particular one aim or one goal. It could look very different for everyone. I just want to give a little bit of background and context about myself, just to further, introduce myself to this space. So again, I got certified in digital wellness, educating through the Digital Wellness Institute, which is the organization that is hosting this day, International Digital Wellness Day. Before that, I was a freelance user experience designer, and as well as mood lighting as a bass player, musician, and a visual artist. So my experiences as a UX designer, and just for quick context, UX stands for user experience. So user experience design as a research and design method to help architect digital experiences that ideally build a bridge between users' needs and brand/business goals. Of course, in the utopian sense, this would be really great, but as we all know, many of us who have watched, documentaries like The Social Dilemma, who have heard of organizations like the Center for Humane Technology, names like Tristan Harris or Yuval Noah Harari, or even Cal Newport, we know that tech is rife with unethical practice. And I was also experiencing that as a freelance designer based here in Los Angeles. So, in the height of the pandemic, and I know that we're still in this pandemic, very much so, even though we're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel, about 6 or 8 months ago, I found the Digital Wellness Institute and then transitioned away from um, experience design into digital wellness, educating and speaking and coaching. So what I do today is I also I support people and parents and distributed organizations in building our digital resilience when it comes to our relationship to tech use. And we do that by creating resilient boundaries, um, building empowered habits, and allowing for fundamental relationship change with how we relate to tech, really by building up our emotional intelligence. So it's kind of a mouthful, but that's a little bit of context and background about me um, because it's important to know and it's important to share. And so I appreciate you being here. And in the midst of all this that has been going on, and so one of the things that I've been passionate about as an individual, as a musician, as a visual artist, as a people-oriented person, is that I've been a student of Chinese and Taiwanese tea culture. It's been really deeply meaningful to me um, as a third culture kid, as someone who was born in the Middle East but raised in California, as someone who feels a bit orphaned from my own heritage, and yet discovering aspects of um, Buddhist thought, Taoist thought, and really just discovering this incredibly elegant and playful and inviting and reverential space of tea. And so I'm really privileged to be able to share that I've been not only learning about tea through mentors and guides and teachers, but also have been able to share tea in a reverential space in the name of mindfulness and sort of camaraderie and team building. Also, in the name of working on corporate and employee wellness as I was freelancing as a designer. And so, pre pandemic, I was also focused on employee wellness and team building experiences through the vehicle of tea ceremony in person, obviously, up until the pandemic began. So, it's a bit of a mouthful in terms of a background, but thank you for bearing with me. And so I want to show you because I'm in this table setup where I don't have quite the right camera setup. So if you could bear with me for a moment, I want to show you what my embodied tea setup looks like and how we can really engage in a tea ritual. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tea. It could be coffee, it could be water, it could be juice. Um, if we talk about aspects of mindful meals are actually one of these really fun strategies within a digital wellness journey. Mindful meal being to have 100% of your attention and intention in the meal that you are eating and nourishing your body with, free from your devices, ideally free from any distraction. If it's a solo experience, it's that much more nuanced, and if it's with your friends and family, obviously safely, due to COVID reality, it's that much more fun and full of merriment. Because we are human mammals, we are social mammals, and we are meant to really just to be together, sharing food, because we've been doing that for millennia. So I'm going to tilt my camera down and show you what my tea setup looks like. Cool. So this is my presentation of what I refer to as slow tea, which is an homage to what's known as Gong Fu. Gong Fu is an elegant Chinese tea brewing methodology that I learned back in 2009. And this is one type of setup. So this particular setup is comprised of, this is a teapot. It's actually called a gaiwan. And a gaiwan is essentially a cup with a lid. And I put the loose leaf tea in here. And I can brew the tea in this vessel. And then when I'm ready to decant, I tilt the lid so that I can decant out into this, which is actually a decanter. And then from a decanter to my cup. And the reason why I have this set up, these three vessels, is because it creates a sequential process of from kettle to teapot to decanter to cup to lips. It creates a flow state. It causes me to be extremely mindful of what I'm doing. These are very delicate and fragile objects that are imbued with lots of character and personality. And so I'm just going to give you a demonstration of what this looks like. And feel free, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box. Or you can write them down for the Q&A as well. And so because this is a Chinese tea brewing method that comes from Fujian province, which is southeast China, I'm also utilizing this, which is actually it is a cake or a brick of tea. This is known as pu'er tea. Pu'er is an intentionally aged and fermented tea leaf that tea manufacturers, after they harvest the tea, they intentionally ferment it, and then they press it into these circular disc shapes that they wrap in rice paper and then sit to age. And the reason why it's wrapped in rice paper is because it's aging well, much like we would refer to things like wines and cigars and these kinds of objects that mature with age. So without giving you too much information that's relevant to this discussion, this presentation, I just wanted to introduce what the tea looks like. And the tea is a really, it's kind of like this dark, sort of brothy, really earthy taste, which is really, really, really wonderful. So this is my kettle. This is a Bonavita gooseneck kettle, which is really great for precision pouring. So I take my lid, and again, this is an intentionally slowing down experience. There is no rush. There is no, tea bag in a mug and then get to the next thing or get to the next meeting or get to whatever the next thing in your day may be. This is an intentional, fully immersive experience. And again, it's not for everyone, but it is welcoming to everyone. So this is going to be decanted really quickly. These are really quick steeps, and I'll explain that in a second. And I take that very first steep and I actually toss it, which I will explain in a second. I then steep it again. Again, this is just purely for for ceremonial and presentational purposes. I can get into the nitty gritty of it because there's a whole tradition to this style of tea brewing. But the foundation of Gong Fu, which I included in the description of this event, is that Gong Fu translates to effort loosely. I don't speak Mandarin, but from what I've understood from my teachers and my guides, Gong Fu is translated as effort, cha is tea, and so Gong Fu cha is tea with effort, which really implicates that time, presence, dedication, reverence, being super attuned to what's going on in practice, in repeat practice, will result in a profound tea experience. So why is that important to digital wellness? Well, it's important for me, and when I introduce it to my clients and partners and the people that I'm working with, because using your hands and fingers in this flow state process, which is really no different than baking or knitting or ceramics or even woodwork or building a model, just something that uses your hands and your fingers and creates those neural pathways, is a really great example of an immersive experience that pulls you in, continuously pulls you in to what's going on and keeps you from being distracted by your device. So I'm going to lift this back up and bring you back in. And share more about that. Why do I feel that it's important to share that we create these immersive experiences obviously within resources, within available time, resource, investment. I mean, as you can see, just between these three tools and the kettle and the tea itself, I mean, the tea realm is can get very technical. There's a level of nerding out, which can be super fun. Again, no different than being a musician and pursuing musical gear, or being a photographer and pursuing photo gear, or being a filmmaker, or again, a ceramicist or a seamstress or a baker or a chef. So there is obviously any level of investment that you can make, but it can really start with the mug that you have. Maybe your favorite mug, maybe it's a thermos, and even a bag of tea. It could be that profound with what you already have. You don't necessarily have to make a significant investment in gear. The idea is it's really about the intention you have towards the experience that makes it profound. You could have a glass of water. You can really have a glass of water. Here's an example. Here's a glass of water. And if I choose, again, it's up to me. If I choose to look at the glass of water, to imbue it with my gratitude, and just to make sure that I have maybe a few minutes to really just sit and sip and slowly just enjoy this glass of water, I can have this glass of water be this profound experience for me in the middle of my day, in between meetings, in between clients. It's really about, again, I know it sounds kind of hokey, and I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself at times, so please forgive me, but it's the idea of the intention you're putting into what you're doing. Now, again, when it comes to tea, it's really there are again, tea is celebrated across the globe. Tea is tea is the second most popular beverage in the world after water. So it really makes no difference um, where you are in the world. You know, for me, I gave you a really brief presentation of my homage to Chinese tea culture. Obviously, being that I don't have Chinese ancestry, but it's something that for me, I get to experience it. And for me, it's a joyful and delightful experience. I've been doing this tea brewing method for 12 years and have been sharing it for 11 years to groups of people. And it's been a really profound experience. And I know it's a bit difficult to translate that experience purely virtually. But the idea being that it is a shared space. So again, when it comes to our digital wellness journeys, for some people, it may be the aim to just severely limit their or reduce their screen time, right? That may be a goal for some people. This is a great opportunity to not, you don't even require the use of the screen time feature in iOS or some app that will block access to to a particular app, because this experience of tea, or whatever it may be for you, something that you can playfully explore, you know, in terms of slow living, slow food, um, process oriented, hand and finger and eye coordination oriented. These, you know, these immersive um, experiences that could be hobbies, passions, curiosities. I mean, there's so many ways now to explore. Um, Even again from a aspect of slow food and mindful eating, there are all kinds of really cool subscription based tea or coffee or snack based startups that will mail you a curated selection of these items, tea, coffee, snack, something, every month, so that you can enjoy um, these experiences. So there are many ways to approach it. Um, so that's as far as what I wanted to present without inundating you with too much information. Because again, as you can see, with tea, it's a whole Alice in Wonderland kind of a universe. It is very much a rabbit hole. And I want to be mindful of our time. And so for the remainder of our time together, I would love to um, answer any questions. Um, or I could speak more about just um, digital wellness and, you know, how I like to navigate clients through that. But I would like for this to be at this point forward till the remainder, you know, for the remainder of our time together, to be more of a an inquisitive space, a space for conversation and for sharing. Perhaps you're drinking something. Perhaps you have a cup of coffee or tea or something that you came to this space to be in, and perhaps you'd like to share about that. So if you'd like to, um, either feel free to type it in the chat or to, um, yeah, unmute your microphone, turn on your video if that feels if that feels uh, fun and inviting for you. Um, if you'd like, I could tilt the camera back down and keep showing what this tea brewing process is like. But yeah, at this point forward, I want to make this more of an interactive kind of a space because I didn't want to come into this with a keynote or some kind of a slide presentation. Um, you know, my goal as I'm working in this field with people is to have it be more of a conversation and a relationship,